The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Geoff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Geoff Banks online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at geoffbanks.bet. Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast as we break down the big stories and the big races from the last few days. And there's a lot of big stories and a lot of big races to go through. I'm joined by Geoff Banks, CEO of Geoff Banks Bet, and from the Sun betting and gaming editor, Sam Morgan. Boys, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Hey, mate, good to be back.
Geoff, you were there at glorious Goodwood, soaking up the sunshine, soaking up the atmosphere. What was it like for the week?
All 5 days. A liquid bath for 5 days. That's what it is. You arrive in there about 11 to 11:30 every day, and they wash you out at the end of the day. It's visually, as you walk onto the racetrack, and I know you've got some gorgeous racetracks in Ireland, I've seen them, but Goodwood, is well tagged glorious. It is just the best piece of land ever selected for a racetrack. It's a beautiful place to go. It's got a civilized air. I always enjoy going to Goodwood. In fact, if I was to give a slight preference, I'd prefer it over Royal Ascot, which becomes a real slog. It's
a fantastic few days racing, and there was some real top-class racing as well. It did miss a few big guns, Sam, as we'll talk about when we break down the races, but what was your highlight?
Oh, King Kyprios. It's got to be the miracle horse. We did say on here he was available at 5 to 4 a couple of weeks before the race, and I mean, he won like an absolute good thing, didn't he? It's really testament, I guess, to Aidan's training and Ryan's expertise in the saddle to get this horse back to winning Group 1 at the highest level. But he's just so much better than everyone else in the staying division, isn't he? So for me, after looking like his career could be over, for him to come back, win at Ascot, win this, it's the return of the king.
The race was a bit like watching fellas beating up women boxers in the Olympics. It just was literally no contest, absolutely no contest. I know we're going to get to it, but and I know it's going to. Kyprios ran his race and everything else like that, but the referee would have stopped the fight after 2 furlongs.
And we're off. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're off. Notable speech comes out on top in what was supposed to be an epic clash. The rematch between himself and Rosalian and Henry Longfellow. In the end, Henry Longfellow, for whatever reason, didn't run his race. I think Michael Tabor was kind of joshing with Rafe Beckett afterwards about the tactics on Sonny Boy Liston. But Notable Speech did very much perform and produced, again, that spectacular turn of foot. He's back. And I was starting to question what he had done in the 2000 Guineas. Starting to think, well, he just went in there extremely hard fit. But Rosalian wasn't there. Sharon wasn't there. Henry Longfellow, did he run his race? I'm not so sure that he did. What did you make of the race overall?
Quite a weird one, I think. Templegate, our tipster, put up Notable Speech, I think, as his nap, and he was really weak all morning, wasn't he? And Henry Longfellow was really strong.
Couldn't give him away.
Well, obviously, questions to be asked after Notable Speech's last run at Ascot, but I actually quite liked Charlie Appleby's honesty when speaking after this win at Goodwood. What happened at Ascot? He was just like, hold my hands up, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to have the answer to what went wrong there. I don't have everything written down, worked out. Sometimes they just don't turn up for whatever reason. And sometimes they do. Yeah, look, it wasn't the blockbuster clash we were looking for this race, was it? As you rightly point out, Sharon not there, and Rosalia not there as well. I think Henry Longfellow just getting taken on by Sonny Liston seemed to get very lit up in the early stages of the race, and to me looked like going to be a questionable sort of stayer from that point onward. That was how it turned out as well. Yeah, this is a boost for the 2000 Guineas form, I guess, as well, isn't it? And it does look like Godolphin have a top 3-year-old miler back on their hands, as you say here. It looks like America might be next for him with the Breeders' Cup Mile, which, by the way, is turning into an absolutely brilliant race, isn't it? Look forward to seeing that come November time. But yeah, as Charlie said, the horse has got a rapid turn of foot. I think it was just, I'm not getting massively excited about this performance. I am excited what it means for the mile races further down the road. But the horse is kind of a repeat performer now. Ascot run aside, and we know he's got a rapid turn of foot. You can be patient with him, and you press go, and he finds quite spectacularly as well.
It was a magic performance from him. Once the cutaway is there was only going to be one winner. And that powerful turn of foot is back. For whatever reason, that turn of foot was not evident at Royal Ascot. I don't know why he didn't perform there. They don't seem to know either, but he was extremely confident before the race, Geoff. I don't know if you were hanging out with Charlie Appleby before or afterwards, but on the interviews on Racing TV, he was very, very bullish before the race, and now we know why.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say how delighted I was that Godolphin is back. Unfortunately, I don't know who buys horses for Godolphin. Must be Stevie Wonder. But the fact remains, we need Godolphin at the top of the tree to combat the might of Coolmore and provide some competition. And I was absolutely delighted. Sheikh Mo puts an awful lot of money into British racing every year, and we need his horses to do well. Now, I think the conclusion you take out of the race was the overreaction to a subpar St James's Palace performance. But if you looked at the St James's Palace, when by comparison, say, for example, to Kempton's run in is a full 3 furlongs, as you know, and Ascot's is a very sharp 2.5 as they turn in. And if you're not handy when they turn in, and Buick was not handy at Ascot, then you've got an awful lot of ground to make up on horses ahead of you. It's very difficult to pick up from as far back as he was at Ascot and pass all the other runners. Resallian was very handy. Henry Longfellow was very handy in the St James's Palace, as you know. Just got touched off. When it comes to Goodwood, slightly wide open spaces of Goodwood and things like that, I felt this was, there would be plenty of good rides from Ryan Moore, but this was not a good ride. He rather set, the horse never looked comfortable in front, and he rather set it up for a closer. And if there's any horse in British racing right now that's a better closure, I think it's hard to find. It's hard to name one. And Notable Speech picked him up so easily. Henry Longfellow disappeared off the map. And it was a very good performance from a very good horse, and I think we've been a bit hard on him just for the fact that it's one poor race. He did win 3 races at Kempton impressively. He won the 2,000 guineas in great style, beating off Resallian. That's good form. Mm-hmm. That is good form. He's had 1 bad race, and there he's gone to Goodwood and basically stamped his authority. Personally, there's no entries for him right now. I had a look at it earlier on, but one fancies him for the Breeders' Cup Mile, I suppose.
Price I saw straight after the race was 6-1, which made me go, wait, what? I'm pretty sure Lydia Hislop was saying that. By the way, Lydia Hislop and, was it Chris or Martin Dixon? I'm sorry, I keep mixing up the Dixon brothers. I apologize. They're both excellent. The racing TV coverage was superb. It was absolutely brilliant. More of Lydia Hislop anchoring racing TV coverage, please. That was absolutely superb. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But I did think that 6-1 was massive. And then I thought about it some more. Yeah, but Sharon wasn't there. Resallian wasn't there. Has Henry Longfellow performed? I couldn't tell you about the current state of the American older brigade in terms of turf horses, but they're getting better, and they've won multiple Breeders' Cup miles now. That being said, it's Charlie Appleby and William Buick at the Breeders' Cup. They just win.
Well, the 6-1 has disappeared because it's 7-2 each of these two horses, Notable Speech and Resallian, to win the mile, with Master of the Seas at 6s. So yeah, any 6-1 that initially appeared for Notable Speech, somebody got £5 on, and it's gone.
I don't think it's nailed on. I think Charlie said, you know, it's a possibility. It's an outcome we're going to explore going over to America, but it's by no means nailed on yet. But I would agree it does look the logical step.
Yeah, I suppose they do have Masters of the Seas as well, though, who I think would have been very competitive in a Queen Anne, for example. Possibly a Lockinge as well, for that matter. We'll come to that winner in a second briefly. But look, it's great to see him back. I'm very excited to see what he can do for the rest of the season. Maybe I'm wrong about this, Sam. I wouldn't have him in mind for the QE2. Yes, he did win a straight mile classic at Newmarket, but Ascot's a different kettle of fish. That's a proper stiff test, and Champions Day can be run on a bog. I would not be sending him there.
Yeah, the approach I'd take to Champions Day is basically throw all known form out the window if the ground comes up as heavy, and just, I mean, you may as well close your eyes and pick something. That's my experience anyway, betting on Champions Day. I've never looked at it as a potentially profitable day for me. I just try and get out without having my trousers pulled down completely. Yeah, I've got to be honest, like I while it might not be nailed on, if you look at Notable Speeches, it was good to firm at Goodwood, wasn't it? It was good at Newmarket. It seems to me like I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what his action's like. I don't think he has a high knee action that would sort of lend itself to slogging his way up the mile to finish at Ascot in the mud. But it just seems to me that I think America would be the next option. Like we say, we don't know it's for sure, but it seems to me that would be the case.
Yeah, Group 1 in France maybe beforehand. Like we definitely want to see him before I want them packed away until November. Thanks very much. The Trainers' Championship will be interesting. That's kind of over, though, isn't it? As long as City of Troy is able to produce the goods in the Juddmonte International, and Aidan O'Brien's got a lot of other talent to unleash as well. He's currently on £4.9 million at the top of the BHA Trainers' Championship. Charlie Appleby significantly better than last year, where he wasn't in the top 10. He's fourth on 2.6 million. Andrew Balding is having an incredible season, 2.9 million. That's great to see. Jonathan Thady Gosden, 2.7 in third. Carl Burke, 2.3 million in fifth. As long as these O'Brien horses keep on rolling, and there's no reason to think they won't, then he is going to be champion trainer. If Ireland have the champion trainers of jumps and flat racing in the same year, I mean,
price
come
is
on.
British racing? What are you talking about? There is none.
Thing is, that's papering over the cracks. British horses are dominating in Ireland. Outside of the Aidan O'Brien monopoly, Irish racing's in a slight bit of trouble, but we might talk more about that.
Just before you quickly move off on this race here, I mean, looking at the Breeders' Cup Mile and the potential runners with notable speech of Brazilian, Master of the Seas, opera singer, potential runner, Sharon and Audience, all potentially running in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Just imagine if all these trainers grew a pair. Imagine what a race that would be if they all turned up in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I would stay up for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff, I think you missed one there as well. Porta Fortuna.
Oh,
yeah. She's going for it.
I missed
American
that.
owned.
It's about allowance, I think.
Imagine instead of scrabbling around for a race at Newcastle, if they turned up in the mile.
Newcastle?
Yeah.
Oh, they're all rocking up to the Racing League finale.
I'm going to ask it. So I'm going to Newcastle. Where's the black tie?
City of Troy is going to be off to Southwell, isn't he? To get used to the.
Isn't City of Troy in the September Stakes? I think that's where he's going. September Stakes. That's where they normally go.
Fake news and Russian disinformation on the show. Before we move on to the Nassau Stakes and the Fillies, audience, if he'd run in the Sussex Stakes, he's another horse who was missing from this. They decided to go for the 7 Furlong Group 2 Lennox Stakes instead. He was so good in that race, Sam. You'd have to think he would have at least gone close in the Sussex, which is not something I thought I would be saying before Glorious Goodwood.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine saying that pre-Lockinge as well. You would have been laughed at completely, right? Yeah, I think you're totally right what you're saying. All of a sudden, we've got another class miler on our hands here. Now, this could be down to... and don't laugh here, but this could be down to the jockey in the saddle, and that's Rab Havling. And there could be,
I agree,
some big connotations coming up for what Rab's win on audience could mean in the future, and especially with regards to Kieran Schumacher and his place in the Gosden rank and file with the jockeys there, and which jockey the owners Cheveley Park Stud want to have as well. But we can come on to that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, all of a sudden we've got a plethora of really, really quite solid, I would say, milers. Perhaps take Henry Longfellow aside now, unless it was just an off day and the race didn't pan to suit. Absolutely. But yeah, it's quite an exciting division, actually.
Do you want to just elaborate a little bit further on the Rab Havlin developments? What do you think is happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. So some quotes this morning on a rival podcast, Emmet, I would say a rival podcast, came out from Chris Richardson of Cheveley Park Stud. And he was asked about Kieran Schumacher, who's ridden in Spiral both times this season, whether he would be guaranteed the ride in Jacques Le Marais this weekend. Obviously in Spiral has won it the past twice and is going there again. Chris basically said, look, everything's up in the air at the moment. We're not committed to Kieran. And we're going to have a look at which jockeys are already out in Deauville, and then we'll make a judgment call on it. But look, there was no way this was a ringing endorsement for Kieran Schumacher at all. And obviously a lot has been made about the difficulties he's had this season slotting in as #1 rider for the Gosdens. And Cheveley Park do like using Rab, don't they? And they've seen the success that's come of this with audience. And of course, we had it in the, well, it didn't quite work out, did it, with Ambiente Friendly in the Derby, but perhaps Rab Havlin, I mean, he's a bit of a going around as the Grim Reaper for rival jockeys at the moment, isn't it? Didn't work for Callum Shepherd, he was gone. Now maybe Kieran Schumacher could be for the chop as well on in Spiral, not for the Gosden job at all by any means. But it is quite interesting, and you know, you right to pick up audiences win here, Emmet, because owners, trainers will be looking at this and being like, okay, like Rab's having a pretty good season here, and if the signs are that he's getting on, especially with a certain owner's horses, and they're liking what they're seeing, then it's their prerogative to change, isn't it?
What have you done for me lately? What are the results? And in Spiral, it's been a disaster. I don't think she was fit running in the Lockinge. I wouldn't blame him for that. But Prince of Wales is harder to explain. Maybe she didn't like the trip. Maybe Rab is after overperforming twice on audience this season. I don't think the Lennox Stakes was a perfect race, but if he had replicated that performance in the Sussex, you can't say he would have been out of it. You could argue, why are the jockeys allowing a runaway winner of the Lockinge such a lead up front? But that's how it panned out. Art Power was the only one to push him, and they're the ones who end up finishing first and second. I think that division lacks a bit of depth anyway. It's a difficult time for Kieran Schumacher. That's a hard job to go into, and we've talked about the reasons why. You're not really first jockey. Oisin Murphy's got his pick of rides there. Holly Doyle has her pick of rides. James Doyle is obviously riding the Watan horses. You are first jockey, but you're not first jockey. Emily Upjohn, twice this season, at least, maybe 3 times. There's been a few ones that people are going to ask questions about, and it's not show friends, it's show business.
I know you're about to come on to the Nassau, so this is quite precipitous. But I mean, what the hell was Kieran Schumacher doing with Emily Upjohn in the Nassau? I mean, it just literally, you watch the first 4 or 5 furlongs of race, and he's looking around for where to put this horse. Comes out on the far side of the track, and literally was on an island on his own, wide of the other runners, didn't seem to know what to do with the horse. And he's the pilot. He's the one that's supposed to be directing the traffic with Emily Upjohn, telling her what to do, where he wants to place her. He ends up dropping her in virtually last. And this was after 3 or 4 furlongs of the laps in the race. No wonder the horse basically gave up the ghost. And you know, as you know, it could well be that Emily Upjohn, you know, there are indications Emily Upjohn is just done with the sport. She's like, oh, bollocks to this. I'm going to go and do some dressage. But you know, this could be true. But the ride that was given to Emily Upjohn at Goodwood gave her absolutely no chance whatsoever of winning. It's not surprising that she showed no enthusiasm for the race.
Keep her away from Charlotte Dujardin if she's heading for the dressage world.
But also, Geoff, just on that quickly, that's really interesting because the way Emily Upjohn was ridden in the Pretty Polly was completely different, right? She was kind of midfield, and then it was kicking of home arguably too soon, and she was in pole position to win there, and it didn't work out. And this race really couldn't have gone worse, and it didn't work out. So you're kind of looking at, you've got both ends of the spectrum here, like a disastrous run, and it's turned into a disastrous result. You've got what looks like you're in the perfect spot, and then you get nutted by blue stocking late on. You know, it just, you've got really 2 ends of the spectrum, and neither's working out.
Sam, I hedged my bets. I didn't want anybody turning around and saying that I thought Kieran Schumacher was necessarily a bad jockey and this was a bad rider. I hedged my bets in saying that maybe this horse, you look at the Coronation Stakes, and she was too awful to be true. We're not mentioning that, but she was. And and after that race, I remember after that race turning around to my adoring staff and saying, I think she is done with racing. At the time, I thought she was done with racing. And, you know, again, at Goodwood, it's arguable that really not even John Gosden can bring her back. But we'll see.
Hey, John said the hood will come off for her next run.
Hood on, hood off.
Well, they're talking about bringing her for the...
Hood on, hood off, useless.
They're talking about going for the Yorkshire Oaks with her, which...
If you put a hood on me, it wouldn't make me run any faster. I'm just telling you that.
But after Free Wins defeated the weekend, now she's kind of up in the air. Like all these Gosden fillies who've come back into training, you kind of wonder, was the reason these horses were brought back because they have such strength and depth and you think they can continue to win Group 1s? Or is it that, by their own admission, they don't have any 3-year-olds? Like the one good 3-year-old they have is the one he won on at Ascot on King George Day. Thady Gosden was saying, yeah, that's our best 3-year-old, by the way. So it's kind of difficult on Kieran Schumacher because we just don't have the horses. And the older fillies just haven't done it yet. But her 2 Group 1 wins have come over a mile 4. You've gone really close in a Pretty Polly. You've ended up being beaten by Blue Stocking, who was winning her first Group 1 of the day, but she's then gone on to be second in the King George. So you basically had an almost impossible task there. But this is a multiple Group 1 winner in Emily Upjohn. So why are you holding her up in the way you are? Unless they're telling you, we want you to hold her up to that extreme circumstance. And then if you're doing that, why are you traveling so wide? It just was odd. The whole thing was very, very odd. I'm guessing that appearance on the podcast this morning was the Nick Luke Daily, was it?
Correct, indeed, yeah.
We'll give it its proper promotion as it deserves. I'm confused by that, but it's going to be interesting to see who does ride in Spiral, and it might very well be Rab, but we shall see.
The other thing to come out of the race, of course, is more confirmation that Aidan O'Brien, not apart from being a fantastic trainer, is the greatest double glazing salesman in racing, bar none. Opera Singer struggles home to beat See the Fire, and Sparkling Plenty struggles home. He was absolutely leathered to get home by Ryan Moore. Just gets home like gasping, panting breath. They get him into the paddock after that. Well, I thank everybody. Thank you. Thank the trainer. Thank the owner. Thank the fellow that gave me a lift the other day. And then announces that, you know, that this horse is a potential Arc winner. I mean, how can that win the Arc on that performance? It can't win the Arc on that performance. To be fair, he did say it probably needed another run. It would certainly need to pick up 10 lengths before it goes to any Arc. But he is the greatest salesman in racing without any parallel. I think he also described City of Troy as one of the best he's ever trained. That nutter that just scraped home in the Eclipse against a bag of bollocks. So he is, that's what you've got to hand it to Aidan O'Brien. He isn't just a good trainer of horses. He's a fantastic, world-class salesman.
Well, he is, and I'm buying what he's selling, because I put up Opera Singer at 20-1 for the Arc on the Final Furlong podcast a couple of weeks ago with Geoff Banks' bet. Let's just have a quick look at the betting there. Oh yeah, what's that saying? 8-1 now. Opera Singer with Geoff Banks' bet for the Arc. Second favorite.
That 20-1 is only for vulnerable gamblers. It genuinely is. You know, it is only for vulnerable gamblers. You know, if you're a vulnerable gambler, you go, oh, Opera Singer, yeah, get on.
Oh,
as soon
yes.
as you back Opera Singer with us, you're going to get a phone call. They're going to be calling you up saying, maybe you should really think about gambling. Go back to smoking, drink, all the other things, but stay away from gambling.
That being said, you have cut Opera Singer to second favorite for the Arc, so we're in a good position here. We're doing all right. If you've got the 20-1, if you followed us in. One of the reasons I liked her so much is Ryan Moore was saying, which has now been quoted in multiple places, this horse could win the Arc next year after she won the Prix Marcel Bouzak. He's talking about taking her for the Prix Vermeil next time out. He did keep up the salesman routine by saying, we were of the opinion that City of Troy was our best ever 2-year-old colt and that Opera Singer was our best ever 2-year-old filly. Which, considering the caliber of talent Aidan O'Brien has trained over the years, says an awful lot about what you make of that. But this was good. This was a really impressive performance, I thought.
Is the point here of Opera Singer, she made all, right? So it's understandable she probably looked a bit stretched at the end of 1 mile 2 at Goodwood. And, I mean, looking at it, personally, I wouldn't be thinking, wow, this screams a step up to 1.5 miles. But, you know, contextually, if you're going to jump out and make all in a race like that, and you know you're vulnerable to when the cutaway comes in, horses coming from behind, then I'm torn on this. I don't know whether to upgrade it or to downgrade it. Basically,
that's kind of how I feel.
You saying, Emmet, I'll upgrade it, but I don't know. I didn't come away thinking, bang, she's an Arc winner. But then you've got Ryan Moore saying that, and you're like, okay. I mean, the ultimate man of few words. Everyone hangs on what he does say. Surely he knows. Like he's got an idea, hasn't he? I'm really torn on this one. I don't know. I certainly, after watching that race, and if you said she's second favorite for the Arc now, I'd have a tough time believing you, to be honest.
But isn't she second favorite for the Arc for the very reason that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, which is one of the reasons I put her up? Where's the strength and depth? Like, look, the Vega won the French Derby. Yeah, that was very good, and they've got a pretty decent record in the Arc itself, but I don't know how good that form is. Dancing Gemini's not done a whole lot for it. Diego Velázquez was good in Leopardstown, but he didn't get to run at the weekend because the Saratoga Invitational Derby was scrapped on the day. The rest of the racing continued, but that was scrapped. And even so, even if he wins an American 3-year-old Grade 1, does that boost that form? I'm not so sure that it does. Saucy, yeah, you look good in the Grand Prix de Paris. That's only produced one winner in recent years. I think that was Rail Link. Economics, again, where is he? Has anybody seen the horse with the bloody nose? Nope. Miss the Souvenir. She was good the other day, but she wasn't good enough to win the race before. White Birch on the missing list as well. Los Angeles, probably not good enough. City of Troy won't run. Like, almost by default, you should probably go shorter about this horse, Geoff. You should probably have her as clear favourite.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, I think you make a good point. I mean, I would not put anybody off backing opera singer to win the Arc. I mean, I need the money. I would not put anybody off it. Get in, lump on, get on. You will all get on. You don't have to be patient. You'll get on.
So you're not having her as an Arc winner, essentially?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I'm just using my eyes at Goodwood.
But also, just because saying she's second favourite, I mean, that assumes that the market's kind of correct, if you know what I mean, and the odds are accurate. Where, I mean, that's just a trader's opinion, right? And Geoff's opinion. Geoff, not saying your opinion's wrong at all. Your opinion has been learnt over many decades.
No, yes, of course.
That's just assuming that market's kind of correct. And I mean, you almost could say that opera singer now being second fav would probably also look to Vega's credentials for me, if anything. And then the 7-2, while really, really skinny and you know, even 2 months away, would I want to take 7-2? I'd have to kind of think about it. But I mean, this is all on the basis that market is kind of accurate as it is, and it's a tough one to call. Yeah, there are so many who probably aren't going to go as well. It's a tricky one to try and get at this stage. But Emmet, I would say if you're on a 20s, you're obviously going to line Geoff's pockets a little bit more, aren't you? But you could be onto a winner as well. Yeah,
I'm happy with my 20s. I have very little interest in going back in again. I actually thought about hitting the cash out button when she went down to a single figure price. I seriously did. Because the thing is, like, I was expecting a really impressive performance. I was expecting her to just crush everything, Emily Upjohn included. And that's not what you get. You get her just about hanging on to go and do it. I suspect she's better than that. I think she probably is. She's been placed in a 1,000 guineas in Ireland. She's been placed in a coronation. Now she's stepped up in distance and she's won. There's probably going to be further improvement over a mile 4. But what if the rain falls at Paris-Longchamp and it's a complete bog? She probably won't run.
Well, as you say, you could always cash out. I mean, what a great deal that is, cashing out.
Yeah.
It's always...
Yeah, always fantastic.
No wonder Denise makes so much money. She came up with that one.
Yeah, just take your tenner back there.
Back to the bookmaker for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, you've managed to back a horse at 20s who's now 8-1. Here, have 12.50 for your 10 quid bet back. Yeah, that's genius, 12, isn't it?
You can get about 25 pence for your bet or something.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's a profit. All right, we roll on. The dream is alive. I'm holding on to that dream, but I do have a slight question mark about her. This episode of the Final Furlong podcast is only possible with your support, listening and watching, and with the support of our sponsors. So give me 60 seconds to tell you about Geoff Banks' bet. Betting on horse racing used to be very simple. It was us, the punter, versus them, the bookmakers, the old enemy. But today, betting with online bookmakers is zero fun. Online betting companies promise you the world, but if you have the nerve and the audacity to place a winning bet, they will make you jump through endless hoops just to access your cash. It is not fair and it's not fun. And betting is supposed to be fun. Geoff Banks is different. He's one of the most recognizable faces in British racing. He's got pitches at racecourses all across the United Kingdom. He is a true horse racing fan. And while Geoff very much promotes responsible betting, he is standing up and fighting back against these insane affordability checks. Affordability checks that will destroy the levy and kill British racing. Sign up to geoffbanks.bet right now. Use our promo code FFP500 and not only will you get access to a bookmaker who values your custom, who is a racing fan, but he'll give you best odds guaranteed on British and Irish racing, and he'll give you 10% cash back on net losses after your first month, up to £500. Gamble responsibly, 18 plus only, begambleaware.org. It's tradition refined with modern tech and unbeatable odds. Use our promo code FFP500 and place your bets now with Geoff Banks Bet.